I'm Phil Anderson. I'm the executive director of Gallery 1313 at 1313 Queen Street West. And it's an artist-run center that we don't receive core funding, but we've been operating for 28 years in the Parkdale area here. Artist-run centers originally started with more spontaneity and more experimentation in the arts, and because of the funding model, they've gradually slipped into more programming. We have, in a given year, about 70 exhibitions a year, including all the different spaces. So there's a huge amount of activity here, and that's on top of workshops and panel talks and all kinds of things. We have a mandate for educational programming. We're in a very diverse area of Toronto, and we try and reflect that as much as possible in our programming. So we often have exhibitions that a lot of other galleries might not have. Currently we have the Sex Show, which is an annual show curated from an open call, and there are about 28 artists in that show, and that's always a kind of an evolving show. You know, we work on a tiny budget, and that's not because we want to work on a tiny budget, but that's just the way it works. Ideally, we'd like to get some funding for programming so that we didn't have to depend on rental exhibitions, but we could still hold those exhibitions, but without the rental component of it. And so if we had funding for programming, that would be ideal. And the more funding we have, the more capacity we have, the more things we can do. So looking into the future, that would be great if we had some core funding, and I'm not necessarily talking about changing the model of what we do. I think the turnover we have of exhibitions every 2 weeks seems to be a formula that works in terms of the visitors that we have here. We've had longer shows on occasion, but it hasn't translated into necessarily more visitors overall. So I think that model works, but we'd like to have more funding, of course, and that would be great, so that we could have more capacity to do more and offer more. But yeah.
My name's Emily Pike. I'm an artist. I live here in Toronto, grew up here in Parkdale. We're at Gallery 1313, which is an artist-run gallery here in Parkdale. It's been going on for about 30 years, I think, and I just joined here as a member last year. And it's a great place for me to show my art and get my art out there. My current exhibition is called Here Now, and it's rooted here in Parkdale. I was really inspired by walking around my neighborhood, all the landmarks, all the places that I see in my day-to-day travels, little restaurants, little alleyways, and I was just sort of inspired to mark my place here in Parkdale, which is my home, and I felt like it was a really good fit to be here at this gallery as well. I find artist-run galleries are usually very welcoming places. They can all be very different in terms of how they're operated. What you have to watch out for costs and rental fees and what the commissions are, and you have to kind of do your research because there is a bit of a thing around this pay-to-play thing where you can anybody can put their art up in certain places, which I think is fine. I mean, I think if you're an artist and you want to share your work, you should be able to put it out there and get it out there, and then let the public decide if it's good or if it's not good. I don't really have concerns around that. I think it's if you can be authentic with creating your art and putting it out there, it's going to resonate with somebody. My hope is that every neighborhood would have an artist-run gallery, a space where people feel encouraged to come and see local art, where we can come together as communities. And I think we need, especially in this day and age, we need more art, and art is what makes us human and brings us together. So I think it's really important for all sorts of communities to have that. So I hope this place is here forever, and I hope to continue to show my work here, and I'd love to branch out and do other shows, of course, even be international, but this is my home, this is Parkdale, so this is where I feel like I'll always be connected to this place.
My name is Margie Zeidler, and we bought this building, our family bought this building in 1994, when in the depths of a terrible real estate recession, so we were able to buy it for almost nothing, which is why we were able to decide that what we would do with it was make a center for artists. And we wanted to have a lot of galleries. We wanted to have a lot of artists' studios, which we do. About 50% of our spaces in the building are artist studios. But we wanted to add something else. I had been on the board of Toronto Artscape before that, and I knew there was a really big demand for artists that were having trouble finding space. Landlords didn't want to deal with them. And also they tended to get kicked out when the area picked up. So we wanted this to forever and always be an artist center. And so but we also wanted to add something in, which was to say, you don't have to be not-for-profit to be here. You could also be running a business that's for-profit, as long as it's something to do with the arts. An artist-run gallery is generally a not-for-profit that is run by artists, usually a collective of artists. They either promote their own work, or they show the kind of exhibitions that they would like to have out there in the world. One example, who are sadly no longer with us, but Prefix, which started as a photography magazine, but then became a gallery and really was doing some of the most spectacular photography exhibitions. They didn't have a membership. They were just a gallery that was showing wonderful work. They weren't selling their work. They were almost like a public gallery. These galleries rarely sell their work. They're usually there to be seen and as a one-off. Occasionally to raise funds, they do that. The commercial galleries are selling art. They usually have a stable of artists, and they want people to come in and they put on an exhibition that is of one artist for a month or two, and they're hoping to sell their work. So that's also kind of nice symbiosis, because there's, I think people are interested in both. It's about the quality of the work that people are most concerned. The village in the box was a term that Max Allen coined, and it's actually very appropriate because it is a little village. And I always think of it as, our sort of wish about how communities could operate generally. everyone is very supportive of each other and helpful to each other. They share a lot, and everybody knows everyone, and that's kind of lovely in the downtown of a big city like Toronto. I think they're all stronger for having others around them. There are a lot of collaborations. The last 30 years has become so greedy and so unpleasant in that way, and everything, I mean, this area has become insanely expensive. We get offers weekly to take over this piece of land for 100 times what we bought it for, to tear it down and make condos. And that is absolutely what we would not like to see. We spent a really long time creating this, and our tenants co-created it with us. And so what we're looking into now, so it can exist in perpetuity, because I'm getting old and I'm trying to retire, is to turn it into a not-for-profit organization, so that, and to have very strong, like, you can't sell a building to a developer and say, and you have to keep it like this. They have no, you can't do that. They don't have to do that. They can say, yeah, I'll do that, and then they can tear it all down. But I think the only way to go is to make it into a not-for-profit organization that would have very strong mission about what they want to accomplish here, which is what we've been doing for the last 30 years, and basically say it can't become anything else. It has to be this. So I think that's what our family would love to see, who are the owners. We put a lot into it, and we care a lot about the arts in the city. One of my sisters is an artist, and my mother was an art consultant. My father was an architect. We all are passionate about the arts in the city. So, yeah, I think it's been a nice addition to the city, and it would be a real tragedy for it to go.
My name's Patrick McCauley. I'm the Executive Director of Open Studio, which is in 401 Richmond. And we are an artist-run center that is dedicated to the creation of print. And so we have a large studio and a large membership, which use the studio to make work. We also have classes, and we have an exhibition space and a retail space. I think one of the interesting things about Open Studio, it is what would be perceived as a bridge from university or college. Coming out of an art school, whether it's university or college, the resources to be able to print are very, there aren't that many opportunities. So Open Studio has become that bridge for artists to be able to access the equipment they need. It enables people to share, but it also gives us the opportunity to present artists in an exhibition structure. So yes, it gives the artists the ability to be seen. It gives the artists the ability to transpose from being an art student to a professional artist. And that is really important in terms of what our mandate is. It is to give artists the professional backing that they need to go on further into arts. This is probably the most difficult time to be an artist-run center. Financially, everybody is struggling. It is a community looking for support, and we're not finding it, whether it's government support through granting processes or even individually artists able to continue to make art because of the financial kind of burden that's being put on everybody. So yeah, what would I like to see? I'd like to see more support from government organizations, i.e. Canada Council, Toronto Arts Council, Ontario Arts Council. It is just the plateauing of funding and support in comparison to continual raising of expenses. We just can't meet those. And Open Studio is also struggling with universities and colleges, because I was mentioning that we have been the bridge to coming from an art college or an art university to Open Studio. They are eliminating their programs to the point where we are the only place where you can do what you need to do in certain areas of print. So the importance of Open Studio and importance of artist-run centers, I'm hoping it continues to kind of flourish, but the struggle is to getting the support. And I don't want to leave on a negative, but it is what we are all concerned about, is the livelihood and the ability to be sustainable into the future.